The clock in the station said 1:07, but the air felt like later. The kind of hour that makes a tunnel sound like a throat clearing. I swiped my card at a turnstile that hiccuped and let me through. The tile sweated. Somewhere far down the track something screamed the way metal sings when it hates where it has to be. Work had misplaced my day like a receipt. I was dressed wrong for the cold and the fluorescent lights peeled me. The platform was not empty. It was the special kind of New York crowded. A dozen people pretending to be furniture. A man in a reflective vest slept upright against a pillar, hands in orange gloves folded like prayer. A woman in scrubs blinked at nothing. A boy as thin as a check mark stood with a bike helmet in his fist, as if he'd stolen it from himself. No one moved enough to be a problem. No one looked enough to be a person. The digital sign above the tracks, usually good for lies, blinked. Last train / local only. Great, I told no one. Of course. The tracks were 2 dark pages. Wind came from the left, then the right, then both, a draft with mood swings. Someone's earbuds whispered. Someone's coat coughed. Headlights arrived like a decision you've been postponing. The train nosed in with that little respectful brake squeal, like a violin apologizing before the note. It was older than the ones with the blue displays. This one still had yellow bulbs and map frames scratched with keys. I stepped on. The car I picked seemed relieved to see me, which should have been my first clue. Subway rules are simple, which is why everyone breaks them. Don't make it someone else's business unless you have to. Don't look too long. Let people be a climate. This car had 2 rows of seats facing each other, dull orange, the color of fruit no one buys anymore. The strangers sat evenly spaced as if an invisible hand had counted 1, 2, leave a gap, 1, 2. A man with a beard combed like a lawn. A teenager braid asleep under a big parka. An old woman whose eyes were cataracts but whose hands looked ready to slap. I took an end seat near the door because the illusion of an exit is as good as an exit in a moving box. The doors shut with a rubbery kiss. We began to move. I watched my reflection in the black glass and tried not to. The tunnel blurred into a single long silo. Lights flickered like a complaint. The PA clicked. "Stand clear of the closing doors, please," the standard woman said in the standard voice. Then, almost like a throat clearing behind her, "Eva." I sat up. The car kept being a car. The others did not move. Maybe I'd misheard. Maybe the train ate a word and burped it back out. Eva is not a rare name. It's also my name. You can feel your name in your spinal cord even if you've never liked it. I pretended thirst. I took my water bottle out and drank so I could listen through the noise of myself. The tunnel gave us to another tunnel. We did not stop. We should have. I couldn't see the dot map from my spot, but I could feel the ghost of places passing us. The PA did not list them. The car had decided local only meant no announcements. The last train is not for tourists. I texted my roommate. Caught the zombie local. ETA unknown. If I don't make it by 2, put the chain on. 3 dots bloomed and died. Then my phone lost its bars, shrugged, and became a camera. Opposite me, the old woman's fingers ticked something in the air as if knitting. There's a kind of quiet that isn't absence. It's pressure. At the second station, no sign, just that specific echo that means a platform. The doors opened. No one new got on. No one got off. A small wind went through the car like a suggestion. The doors closed. The train breathed back into the dark. "Next stop," said the PA, a little too careful, like a teacher after an interruption. Static. Then very clearly, "Eva." I swallowed my mouth. The beard man scratched his jaw in a thoughtful way that implied he was hearing whatever he always heard. The sleeping braid slept deeper as if acting. The bike helmet boy, who had ended up in this car by some tide, swung the helmet once between his feet and caught it again without looking up. One of the orange seats was empty now. I hadn't seen anyone leave it. I hadn't seen anyone fill it. It was just empty with a history I'd missed. A whisper arrived the way steam finds your neck. "Eva." It said exactly what the PA had said but quieter, like the mouth of the word was nearer to my ear. I turned my head the way you do when you don't want to turn your head. The stranger on my right, a woman in a winter coat with no sheen left, hands bare though it was cold, did not look at me. Her eyes looked at the gum under the seat across. The whisper came again and it was hers. "Eva," she said once more, and then, almost like she was practicing, "don't react." How do you not react to your name spoken by a stranger whose face is leaning away from yours as though it cannot risk touching your air? Okay, I said to my water bottle cap. I won't. Good girl, she said, and I hated the phrase enough to trust her. She had the kind of voice that's learned to be a whisper by being punished for its regular volume. Look at the map, she said, mouth barely moving. Not at me. Check your stop. The car had one of those old strip maps with little lights. Every station on our line was a dot. None of them were lit. The name of the terminal stop, which should have been a comfort like a bed, was scratched through with something that looked like a key or a need. This train doesn't make stops, I said, keeping my throat still. It performs them. It stops, she said. Just not where you think you are. Don't get off until I tell you. You'll be tempted. You'll feel a specific type of relief. That's not yours. It's the tunnels. I wanted to laugh. I wanted to ask her how often she told people secret instructions in subway cars, what denomination her cult was. But my name in the air had made the air mine again, and the car had 13 and now 12 and now. My eyes counted because counting is a rope, 11 other people, and I realized all at once that none of them were looking at anything. Not a phone. Not a lap. Not a person. They were looking at not looking. The exact point on the chrome pole where someone else's fingerprint had once invented a shine. How do you know my name? I asked the map. You told it to the right kind of wrong thing, she said. Stuck. We follow what sticks. Lady, I said, you need to use more nouns. That, she stopped. The PA clicked like a tongue. This is, the woman in the ceiling said, tone aisle pleasant, for late arrivals. No station name. Only a diagnosis. The doors did not open. The lights did not flicker, and somehow that was worse. The whisperer beside me finally turned her head. Slowly, with the care of a bomb technician. Her irises, the part of a person that tells you if they can be trusted to laugh at themselves, were not a color I could name in the car's yellow. They might have been gray like sidewalks or brown like cardboard. They were the right temperature for warnings. You got on the last train, Eva, she said. Which is not a schedule. It's a verb. There are a dozen subway ghost stories in this city, most of them told by line cooks at 3 a.m. when their feet have stopped being feet and the delicate machinery of the day has pulled apart. The guy who saw a station that was on the map until it never had been. The woman whose reflection waved back. The conductor who kept stopping for a man who was never on the platform and learned later he died on that spot under a weather that was stubborn about snow. I collect those stories the way other people collect recipes. I warmed my hands on them. They are a way to say you can't trust the ground, but the ground hasn't failed you yet. I had not heard the one about the last train being a verb. Explain, I said. You'll want to get off at the first stop that looks like your intention, she said. Don't. It's not for you. The last train pulls all the little late things into the car at once. It's greedy. Names, decisions, the backs of people who left. You got on because you looked like something the tunnel lost and wants back. I smiled with half my mouth because sarcasm is a smaller blade, but it looks like a knife. And you? I've been writing, she said. It was not a brag. It was a diagnosis. I get off when I hear my version. I help people not get off at theirs. My version of what? I asked, and she didn't answer because the train braked the way you wished someone would touch you. Decisively, without spin. The doors opened. The platform outside was the right color for my stop. The tile stains matched. The advertising shell belonged to a bad lawyer I had hated for 8 months. Everything was correct except the name above the stairs. It did not say my station. It said wait. I stood. Don't, the whisperer said with a swift, ugly hiss. Please. I live, I said, pointing like a tourist. This is. It's not where you think it is, she said. This is the version of your stop where you go home to the wrong room. Then the lock learns that it is allowed to be a mouth. I have a roommate, I said, as if that solved anything. As if witnesses are a ward. Make a choice, she said. But don't tell yourself you weren't warned. Stand clear of the closing doors, the ceiling voice said, and then very tenderly, please, Eva. The way she said please made me sit down like a trick. The doors closed. The car exhaled like a person who's stopped themselves from crying a little too late. Good girl, the whisperer said again, and I let her have it. The car did not move for a long drink of seconds. The air felt like a hand around my neck, testing its grip. We rolled. Time went strange. Either 10 minutes passed or a minute that had been divided 10 ways. I wrote myself a little note in the Notes app one couldn't send to anyone. You do not owe tunnels any explanations. The PA clicked. I braced. Next stop, the voice said. Apology. The doors opened. The platform was a place I knew too well, except the benches were arranged like a mouth. The advertisement was for a brand of water that always tasted like something clean had been poured. The poster had my face in it. Not because I was the model. Because the model had borrowed the arrangement of my features that happens when I am trying not to ask for help. A man stepped into the doorway. Brown shoes. Trouser cuff that had met salt in winter. He did not look at me. He looked at the threshold as if it were a border and he was deciding whether to change countries. My chest did its old trick. The one where your ribs remember someone in the language of pain. It was my father. Not young. Not old. The exact age he'd been when his hairline had started writing his regrets for him. I'm sorry, he said without looking up, and that was the thing, the voice, the angle of it, that made my skull recognize itself. You don't have to, the whisperer said under her breath to me. Don't go collect something you already threw away. I didn't throw it, I said to my knees. It left. You placed it gently on the ground and stepped back, she said. There's a difference. My father did not enter. He stood in the mouth and said, I'm sorry, like the 10th note in a song that only learned one. It is hard to refuse the chance to restage your forgiveness under better lighting. It is harder when you have rehearsed your lines for 12 years. I saw myself standing, walking to him, saying something clever enough that he would laugh at the right moment and cry at the right moment, and the book of us would finally close easily. The whisperer, bless her with all my blasphemy, said, don't let the train decide what language you forgive in. And the doors closed. The train took my father away from me again clean. It was the kindest theft. Transfer is available too. The ceiling voice hesitated, then finished, what you'll say you meant. A laugh escaped me the way air escapes a bruise when you stand too fast. I leaned my head back against the scratched window and closed my eyes without letting my other senses relax. I could smell winter from someone's boots, an orange from someone's bag, the ancient subway smell that is equal parts electricity and old wet newspaper. How long? I asked the not-looking whisperer. How long have you been riding? Long enough to notice the doors, she said. I opened my eyes. What's wrong with the doors? Nothing, she said. Except they're patient. They'll make an Eva-shaped space next stop. Don't fill it because you can. Leave someone else's outline alone. The next platform looked like a hospital hallway dressed as a station. The tiles had that clean that hurts, like a lie your mother tells herself to sleep. The name above the stairs was before. A woman in a pale cardigan stood on the platform holding a bag from a pharmacy. My mother. Not the one after chemo, which had rearranged her into a cathedral no one prayed in. The one from the year she learned she was sick and started keeping lavender candy in her purse to hide the salt. I could smell it from here, ghost sugar and good intentions. She did not look at me. No one ever does in these doors. She looked at the door itself like a window. She said, I didn't, and didn't finish. She pressed her palm to the glass as if to bless. My body moved. A little. Enough to prove it could. Don't, the whisperer said softer than before. There was no scold in it. Only plea. If you go to every moment you wanted to fix and stay in all of them. You will wear out your mouth. The tunnel will applaud. The doors closed and the clap was surgical. I rested my forehead against the cool above the window and let my breath make a fog circle and watched it go away. The train announced a station called Tier and then one called Stay and then one called Hush. No one in the car moved. But the number of us kept being less. When the car was 5 of us, the light above the door flickered twice. A rhythm you learn by living under fluorescent. It means a bulb is asking for permission to die. This is, the PA said, and then my address. My actual address. My heart strapped a seatbelt over itself. Stand clear. The doors opened. Outside was my station. Not the one you've seen. The mosaic chip missing above the pillar where I stand when I want to pretend I know where to wait. The gum constellation under the far bench that is the shape of my constellation from when I was 9 and thought knowing the sky's names meant I could ask for more. At the top of the stairs, a rectangle of night that belonged to my street. I could see the exact texture of my block's darkness. The kind of black that has been interrupted by taxis so often it has learned how to anticipate headlights. It smelled like the deli that is inexplicably always open and the bakery that closes when it feels like it. It smelled like my mouth when I say home on a day when I mean it. You may get off at this one, the whisperer said. If you want to leave as yourself. Her hand, still in her lap, still not touching mine, shook once and then practiced being still. What happens if I don't? I asked because I am a person. We are built to ask the thing that might ruin us. You ride until the doors say your name like an argument, she said. And you get off into the version where the argument's won. Or you never get off and learn to be furniture. I stood. The car turned its head to watch me without moving anything. It is hard to explain. You know when a house is paying attention. You learn the posture of rooms. I stepped onto the platform. The floor greeted me with that small aggressive grit that means the MD hasn't put a mop here since Bloomberg. The doors did not hurry. The train did not panic. I turned back instinct. The whisperer looked up at me finally, fully, like a photograph that agrees to be taken. Her face was handsomer than pretty. Practical. Infinite in the way a responsible person's tired is. Thank you, I said, and the words felt like a coin you throw into something that might or might not be water. Her mouth lifted a fraction, enough to show a tooth that had left home. Go before it admires you too long, she said. Behind her, the teenager with the braid remained sleeping. The beard man had stopped scratching, but I could feel his skin itch from here. The bike helmet boy had become a shadow with a helmet in it. I walked toward the stairs. I let the platform name blur. The tile begged me to correct its cracks and I did not. A rat made an architectural choice and I wished it well. At the top, the air. My air. Cold like a slap that meant you still had a face. I made it to the turnstiles. I swiped out. I turned back because finishing is a superstition. The train doors were still open. The whisperer still there. The car looked less like a room and more like a throat. When the doors shut, the sound scraped the back of my heart. The train left. The wind it left behind slapped my shins like a grandparent who loves the right way. My block knew me. The broken security light at 4B blinked once in recognition and then mindfully did not flicker again. The bodega cat was on the ATM pretending to be money. I climbed the stairs to my apartment and knocked instead of fishing my keys because some sounds you want proof of. My roommate opened with chain on caution. She looked like she'd been preparing a speech with a kettle. You're late, she said. And I was going to chain you out until morning out of love. I was on a train, I said, and then laughed like a crazy person because that is the sentence you say when you've been on a train. We sat at the small table we bought when we moved in for $19 from a man who smelled like patience. I told her a version of the story that could survive daylight. Some stranger told you not to get off at wait, she said. That's already better than my therapist. She told me my name, I said. Like a password I'd forgotten. And, the roommate said, because she is built of and. Do you think she was real or a manifestation of your unresolved, whatever? Both, I said. All of it. Isn't that what real means? I slept that night as if the bed had a stirring spoon and I was sugar. Number 3 a.m. No doors. No announcements. I woke at 6:17 with a headache that belonged to fluorescent bulbs and an urge to check my bank balance. I did not check it. I made toast instead. I went to work like a person who thinks hours are chairs and not hallways. For 3 weeks I did not take the last train. I left places like a grown-up on time with a responsible lie about an early morning. Then one night my phone died at a friend's birthday while I was in the bathroom blinking at my own tired, and I missed the Good Express and the clock said 12:58 in that red font that makes numbers look like discipline, and I walked down into a station because walking anywhere else felt like volunteering for a new disaster. The sign said last train / local only. The air said we remember you. I did not get on the first car that slid up like an apology. I walked to the second as if that would undo fate. The second's doors opened like a trick I'd already seen. I looked through the little window into the driver's booth as I stepped across. The cab was dark. The glass reflected me. For a moment, because the mind is a liar in both directions, I saw someone else behind me. I got into the car anyway. It was different and the same. New strangers with the same weight. A nurse sleeping with devotion. A man holding a bouquet that had chosen to become disorganized. No beard man. No bike helmet boy. I took an end seat. I let the car count me. The whisper came much later this time. I had almost convinced my brain that it had all been fatigue plus subway. Eva, it said. Not from beside me. From across. From a mouth that was mine. She sat 2 seats away, hands in her lap, coat the wrong thickness for the month. My face on her head, yes, but not a trick of the glass. A choice of arrangements that felt like kin. I wanted to stand and hug her as if I was my own aunt. I wanted to apologize in 30 dialects. I wanted to ask what she had learned and if I could borrow the notes. Don't, she said, a smile in one corner, because she knows me. We can't both get saved at once. How long have you been writing? I asked, finding her mouth in the windows black as our car became a throat again. Long enough, she said. You got off last time. Good girl. I flinched and we laughed. Sounded like keys dropping exactly where they should. Where are you getting off? I asked. When it says my address, she said, and I heard myself 10 years deeper. When the doors say this is, and I hear the version where the dishes are still in the sink but they are mine to ignore and I am allowed. The PA clicked. Next stop, it said, considerate as always. Eva. We both looked at the floor like it could be a thought instead. She shook her head. I shook mine. The car let us be a choir. See you, I said. See me, she said. The doors opened to regret dressed up as home, then shut like mercy. We rode. We ride. We will, I think, for as long as there are trains that think they are verbs and nights that agree to hold conversations with tunnels. When one of us gets off, the other will keep her seat warm for the version who needs it next. When I hear my name from the ceiling again, I will decide if it's a command or a greeting. I will decide at the door like a person. The last train is not a schedule. It is a choice you practice until it loosens its jaw. When the doors whisper your name, you get to give the whisper back a different word. Sometimes you say please. Sometimes you say not yet. Sometimes, because you remember the woman who whispered and the girl who slept and the man with the beard who scratched himself into patience, you say your own name aloud and stand clear. And the car, polite as an old ghost, lets you.